From the Room to Room Weather Center.
Oops, put the wrong show on. Hold on a second. We'll get that 5 o'clock rolling here in a second. That's what I get for playing with something behind the scenes. Give it a second here, and
Your family deserves the most beautiful smile possible. At Tupelo Smiles, we use precision dentistry and advanced technology to make visiting the dentist an amazing experience. Relationship-based comprehensive care. Come discover the difference at Tupelo Smiles.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Oh boy. Our back and forth. It always came back. Dad! You probably don't remember what you told me.
That was perfect.
But I heard every word.
You're not gonna get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 5.
Well, what a rainy and stormy afternoon for some as those isolated thunderstorms continue to circulate through our region, actually prompting one severe thunderstorm that we were tracking here in the Room to Room Weather Center earlier this afternoon. I'm meteorologist Gabe Maynor here for Mississippi Live Weather at 5. What you're getting right here is an image off of Highway 82 in Columbus, looking south into Noxubee County, and you see the torrential downpour, those menacing clouds, that a part of what was one severe thunderstorm that we had here in North Mississippi. Our chief meteorologist Matt Laupon joining us now with the very latest on that activity. No severe weather expected, but at least a few more strong thunderstorms at least trying to form here in North Mississippi.
And you know, from time to time, a couple of strong wind gusts can't be ruled out of the strongest of these thunderstorms here. One of the things, of course, we'll be monitoring in the Room to Room Weather Center this evening. As we look here, again, the heaviest up closer to the Tennessee state line, as you mentioned it, there is a flood advisory in effect for some locations very near there. Let's come in a little closer, kind of where our heaviest start to this point up here closer to Corinth and again, Biggersville. This is an aerial flood advisory. What does that mean? That is where the flood water is just kind of sitting there, as opposed to a flash flood warning, which is where the flood water is moving very rapidly. So that is not the case with this. This is more kind of the flood water sitting there. And, you know, to a certain extent, because we've had some rainfall the last couple of days, has contributed to that. We'll look at some of the rainfall rates on this, and they are definitely down over the last probably 20, 30 minutes or so there. We'll show a 1 hour loop here. And again, showing up with, again, some of that moderate rainfall with that generally at that point in time there. Again, as you'll note here, the pinks where we have a lot heavier and still showing some of that for Rienzi back toward around the Leedy community. So it's kind of bring it in here to the latest scan for a moment, kick it back to the regular mode here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. Before we do that, let's hit, of course, the rainfall over the last 3 hours, which where you see that yellow there, again, right in the center of that flood advisory. We show amounts 2 to 3 inches. And some of the areas up here around Corinth tend to be fairly flood prone. So I think that's part of the reason why they've gone ahead and issued that. You look at the rest of the region as a whole. Clearly, it's concentrated where we've had the best rainfall amounts or the heaviest rainfall amounts so far today. Let's go up a little closer again to kind of analyze where those storms are going in a little more detail. Because, again, they're only moving about 15 miles per hour. And so we'll track that about 15 to maybe 20 ahead there. So give me a moment to do that. So that would be about 16 miles per hour. So we show the Cairo community about 509. We'll look at Tishomingo proper about 523. New Hope up there in Tishomingo County about 526. Mingo 532, and eventually Burnstown about 539, out toward Pogo by about 550. This is moderate rainfall. There's a little bit of lightning, not a ton of lightning strikes, show about 145 strikes over the last little bit here. So again, not an extreme number as far as that is concerned, thankfully, as far as that's concerned. So let's go ahead and widen things out just a little bit more. I want to check out the camera up there in Corinth. Again, it's still raining, but it's not too terribly bad at this point in time there. More kind of moderate rainfall, just the leftover stuff and kind of a dreary look. Rain cooled though to 70. Not a lot of complaints about that on the winds, kind of out of a southwesterly, more westerly sort of direction at about 10 miles per hour or so. A few other spots that we're kind of tracking these, we're looking out there from the Oxford area towards some of these showers. Again, you can look from different directions here. One little storm there in the far eastern portion of Lafayette County. You can see the difference the lack of rainfall makes. 88 degrees right now in the Oxford area. And there is that storm right there on your screen. And we show again, that's where it's kind of building up in real life. So the moderate rainfall below that, a lot of other clouds trying to produce a little bit more of that moderate rainfall in the next few minutes as well. Back here to Mississippi Live Weather Radar. And again, that is that one thunderstorm that we're shown closer to the Oxford areas. We kind of clear that off and put this back into motion here. Speed on all these is fairly slow. That one, I mean, okay, I'd really be pushing it to say 10 miles per hour. We'll give you a 10 mile per hour track on it, but it's not a particularly fast mover. And then we'll address a couple other things. We have a storm right there. Okay, let's go 13, just in case it holds together there. We show hurricane by about 541. We're looking 550 Rocky Ford, Buchanan about 555, Possum Trot about 603. Clear that off of there. You'll notice additional thunderstorms kind of pop up closer to Tupelo, back out toward Fulton as well. Thinking is on these thunderstorms that these are kind of more moderate rainfall than anything else, a little bit of lightning. Let's check our camera there in the Tupelo area. And again, not a lot of movement on these storms. This camera was already spectacular earlier today because of the fog look we had earlier. And then looking there toward one of the showers, you can even see the little streamers of rainfall, 86 degrees in Tupelo, the temperature now as we look out of that camera. Again, appreciate the good folks of the North Mississippi Storm Chasers for folks of the North Mississippi Storm Chasers.
The power flickered here at the studio, and that's when everything kind of went off. So I think that's exactly what took place, and that's why everything kind of got bumped and disrupted.
Well, at least it wasn't on my end for a change.
My fault. My fault. I apologize.
Do you have another, speaking of that, do you have any power outage stuff you want to pull up there, or do you want me to kind of finish what I was doing there for a second, and then you do power outage stuff? That works?
Yeah, I can pull power outages up. It's just I wanted to let you know if it was any disruption, I saw everything flicker, and it's like, it's a matter of time. This is about to get crazy. So, yeah, I mean, that's what we're dealing with right now, just a lot of lightning in the area. But as Matt mentioned, I'll look up those power outages here in a moment, hopefully getting everything back on track. I don't know if we lost connection to the actual stream, but fingers crossed on that forecast. But as you can see, Tupelo area, I mean, our studio's right there on the east side of town. Those strikes not too far away either. So while it may not have been right on the studio, definitely enough to disrupt the power source. And luckily, we prepared for this.
We are good on the stream, Gabe, just so you know. We're good on the stream.
We're good? Okay, perfect. So it sounds like everything's up and running, but yeah, that was the closest call we've had since starting up Mississippi Live Weather, and that's exactly what we prepared for. All those days behind the scenes kind of prepped us for this moment. So all the backup sources were ready to go in case we were to lose the power, but that one, you might notice, just kind of came out of nowhere, developed from nothing as of like 4:45, nothing on radar, but what it's doing is it's following this boundary. You see that boundary down around Shannon, that storm that's starting to develop along I-22 moving through the Moorville area, that basically going to interact with this boundary, and that's going to continue to increase, especially as that boundary kicks in. So that's going to be one to pay attention to, Matt, especially as it moves more east into Itawamba County. It's just strengthening more and more, and that boundary has yet to reach it just yet. So we're going to keep eyes on that in that extended outlook. But I do want to say that we do have some photos that we can show off that were from the Prentiss County area. This a look over there in looking towards Walnut, and I believe that's on Highway 72, as you can see from Ripley moving towards Walnut. Those dark clouds off there in the distance. This was right before that aerial flood advisory did get issued, so at least some stronger storms possible, and as you can see, electric storms, as a lot of folks up there are saying that they're just dealing with cloud-to-ground lightning. Other than that, not really any severe threat. So Matt, I know it's going to be a busy time this afternoon for a few folks, but overall, I would say that we've kind of dodged the worst of it, or at least that severe part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I have lost connection to links, by the way. I don't know if we're having a data, but it looks like I see the loop still going behind you, so you're good there. So I'm gonna hand this over to you, and I'll work the tech support in on this. So
okay, well, yeah, we can run through the show, and we'll touch back with you here in a moment. Just let me know whenever we're going to be back up and running. But bear with me. I'm going to go behind the scenes right here and get us back on the show. So sorry about all of this. I love how right as 5 o'clock hits, a thunderstorm decides to form right over the top of the Mississippi Live Weather studio. So as I said at the beginning, welcome into Mississippi Live Weather at 5. Some technical difficulties because of Mother Nature. So it's definitely going to be a time where we're going to be getting stuff back together here at the 5 o'clock broadcast, and we'll be joined with Matt back here in a second, but he's going to get some stuff done behind the scenes. So what we're going to be tracking here at the Room to Room Weather Center is tracking those isolated thunderstorms, even one right over the top of the Mississippi Live Weather Studio, as I mentioned, but a lot of that activity primarily up around the Tennessee state line. So we're going to be tracking that in even more detail here in just a moment. Summer is starting to surge. Temperatures for those folks that stayed dry today already felt a little bit warmer, but heading into tomorrow and heading into that Friday afternoon forecast, we're seeing much warmer temperatures in that extended forecast. But the weekend cool front, not necessarily a cold front because we're not in that territory just yet, but that cool front at least bringing some relief for a weekend. We're going to be tracking that out here in just a moment. But as you can see, already an electric afternoon, already an active afternoon. This looking out of Macon down south. This is where we had that severe thunderstorm warning get issued earlier today, and some of that rain-cooled air bringing much needed relief there in Noxubee County. 68 degrees, feels like 61. Again, a lot of that from that rain-cooled air. So fortunately, I know it was a severe thunderstorm, but at least it brought some good in regards to some of those cooler temperatures. Tupelo, you're looking out on the north side of town right now. I want to see if we can get this swapped over. I'm going to have to do something behind the scenes here real quick, so bear with me one moment as I kind of navigate this. You know what, I'll probably have to go behind the scenes. I'll fix this for the next hit just so we can kind of show off what took place over the studio. But what we have right here, it's going to be on the east side of town where we're getting those primary chances of rainfall. That thunderstorm that has developed right over the top of us and continues to move east through Morville, basically taking I-22 to Itawamba County. So if you're in any of those areas, we'll definitely be keeping eyes on that for you. But buckle up for a pretty torrential downpour, albeit pretty brief as well. Those chances about 20% across the region, so not everyone getting that rainfall, and those chances continue to diminish overnight and heading into that 9 o'clock hour. Midnight dry, and that continues to be the case heading into the start of our Thursday. So not too shabby when it comes to those conditions overnight. We just have to let these last little bit of thunderstorms circulate on out. Let's zoom into this is one of our broad analysis right here. And the main thing that we're watching is, of course, this frontal boundary that's bringing with it some inclement weather there towards St. Louis and the Missouri Boot Heel. But that's really where we expect that severe weather to remain. Here in North Mississippi, we're in this corridor where it's a shear axis that's kind of interacting together and producing some of these pop-up showers and storms. You see that boundary right there along that western side of the high pressure system and just below that frontal boundary. That frontal boundary is going to be key to our extended forecast, not necessarily for cooler air, but for some of those showers and storms to develop for our Thursday and for our Friday. So we'll be keeping eyes on that in the extended forecast. As we take futurecasts into the next 12 hours or so, we can definitely see that shear axis continues to take full advantage of our area and produces even more thunderstorms into our 7, 8, and 9 o'clock hour. There's a look at that boundary. That boundary already starting here in Tupelo, but that becoming a little bit more widespread in that the next few hours. So we're going to keep eyes on Tupelo. We're going to keep eyes on Itawamba County as that line continues to shift south. By 10 o'clock, some of those storms into Clay County and Monroe County as well. As we take a look overnight, though, as I mentioned, calmer conditions move in place, and we'll be seeing all of those storms clear on out, and fortunately not going to be hearing rumbles of thunder as we head to bed. But heading into our Thursday, there's that frontal boundary. And you might think, well, that's going to drop temperatures. That's such a good thing. but it's not that front that's going to do it. It's actually one behind it that'll fully send through our area and give us some much better conditions for our weekend and much drier conditions heading into next week. So although it's not in the next 24, at least it's in the next 7 days and gives us a little something to look forward to. So speaking of the next 24, dry to start the day, but more of those isolated chances pushing in there by the afternoon. A few rumbles of thunder can't be ruled out, but not going to be nearly as widespread as what we had today. Those chances just continue to diminish over that extended forecast. So coming up in 60, we're going to be joined back again, fingers crossed, technology permitting, with our Chief Meteorologist Matt Laupon walking us through some of these chances this evening and some of those storms, where to expect them going forward. We hear it here in Tupelo, but those chances already going to Itawamba County. We'll be tracking much more in regards to those storms here in just a moment. We're also looking at that extended forecast, and hey, who's going to a football game this weekend? Well, I know that's the majority of us, and we'll be walking through that forecast for your Friday night forecast and for your Saturday college football game. So make sure to stay tuned to Mississippi Live Weather at 5 as we take you through that forecast in detail in the next 60.
Harvey's Curbside to Go means you can experience quality anywhere. Call in and pick it up on your way home without leaving your car. No cooking, no cleaning, just dinner. Harvey's, a difference you can taste.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's meteorologist Gabe Maynor.
Welcome back into Mississippi Live Weather at 5. What we're tracking is some isolated showers and thunderstorms that continue to progress across North Mississippi. The main one we're watching is right along this boundary, this outflow boundary that we can see. Clearly indicated by that green line. That's just moving through the area and producing some more development in regards to some of those isolated showers and storms. Getting that in Tupelo, and that storm, like I mentioned, transitioning across the county line there towards Itawamba County, but more activity starting to develop along Highway 6 towards Oxford and Pontotoc. So paying attention to multiple areas. Chief Meteorologist Matt Laupon joining us in just a moment to track these out for what to expect heading into your Wednesday evening. We also have that aerial flood advisory up there towards Alcorn County. That's a result of some of that heavy rainfall, but luckily the heaviest of that rainfall moving towards Tishomingo County, and we're going to be left with at least a break before that next chance of rainfall starts to move in, basically riding Highway 72 up around that Benton County area. More activity on the south side of town, so we're going to be looking at multiple areas, so stay tuned here for Mississippi Live Weather at 5 as we track those out in detail here in just a moment. Now, a cool feature that we can see with satellite imagery is it comes with the life cycle of a thunderstorm. Whenever we see it bubbling up on our satellite imagery, that shows us this is still a mature thunderstorm and expected to continue to develop as we head into that extended forecast. Getting one towards Chula, starting to see that bubble up and those ripple effects there in the sky. So just a really cool feature on satellite imagery that kind of helps you judge where the thunderstorm sits at. As we zoom up there towards the Alcorn County area, you can really see those ripples happening right over Corinth, so that's going to be the heaviest sections, and that's still a mature thunderstorm moving across Highway 72 towards Iuka, going to be producing some decent downpours and a few rumbles of thunder as well, since those cloud tops are getting up and up. That's what those ripples mean, is those cloud tops are climbing into that tropopause area, or the top of our troposphere. So more activity back there towards Somerville, Tennessee. That's starting to move a little bit more southeast, so Highway 72 definitely the hot spot when it comes to our activity this evening. If you live on and along Highway 72, well, we'll have the latest on that track for your evening plans. There's a look at what those storms are doing in that heaviest portion on the east side of Alcorn County, on the northeast side of Prentiss County, now towards Tishomingo County. So I know folks out there definitely gearing up for a rainy 5:30 hour because a lot of these transitioning beyond that point. So by 6 should be much drier conditions, at least until that next threat starts to move in. But we'll be tracking that in full detail here in just a moment. I want to take a look there out of the Crossroads Museum in Corinth, kind of giving us an idea. The unfortunate thing is we're on the ground, so we can't really get that view up in the sky, but those showers have already moved on through. You can see some of that, those wet tracks right there, giving us an idea of how heavy those downpours were. This is where that aerial flood advisory is in effect, not necessarily the highest impacts right here in this region. I'm barely getting any puddles, but further on the south end of Alcorn County, definitely seeing those flooding impacts as a result. Now, if you have any flooding to report, send those reports here to Mississippi Live Weather. We will forward that along to the National Weather Service, and they can go ahead and issue as need be into the rest of our evening plans. Again, you help us out, and we'll get that information to the people that need to hear it. So Starkville, this was another area that was seeing some of those thunderstorms move on through, some of those hazier conditions off there in the distance. That's a result of some of that cloud debris extending off of those high storm tops down along Noxubee County earlier today. So we are still getting some of that cloud cover, but even a little bit of rainfall trying to circulate there on the southern end of Oktibbeha County, at least has been for the past 30 minutes or so. Aberdeen was another area where we were getting some of that rainfall, but as you can see, a lot of those clouds moving south away from the Monroe County area, and you guys are actually getting some blue skies, at least trying to reestablish some of that heat in the atmosphere. So 82 degrees right now compared to some areas that got rainfall that are still in the upper 60s. So your church forecast tonight will depend on where you're at, but we're keeping that 20% chance around 6, 20% chance around 8, and starting to dissipate into those late night plans. So heading out to those Wednesday night services should be dry for most of us, but for those folks that we've been mentioning, Highway 72 especially, have that rain gear ready as you head out the door around 6 and 7 o'clock. Futurecast, you can see exactly that, those rain chances really sticking around that Alcorn and Prentice County area by 7 o'clock, but that boundary that we talked about earlier starting to move north, and we're seeing that on the north side of Tupelo. I'm really hopeful that that cell actually verifies, because that is a very primed location. Bias, of course, because that's the Casa de Manor. But more of that activity just expected to develop into that extended forecast. So we are going to see that as a result of that boundary, but also a result of some of that isolated development along Noxubee and Winston County. That boundary starting to push more towards that southeast area towards Monroe and Clay County. So some folks that got rainfall already, not completely out of the woods to get some more isolated development into that extended forecast. This model trying to keep rain chances around a bit longer. So we will look to see if we need to adjust that forecast as need be for overnight, but at least isolated chances continue into that 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock hour before dissipating out completely overnight. And overnight actually looks like a prime forecast. The only thing looking at this that kind of concerns me is we don't have that much wind. This is about 2 to 3, maybe 4 or 5 miles an hour into our Thursday morning, so we could be seeing what we saw today with some of that patchy fog. Now, looking at that low temperature forecast, we're talking low to mid 60s across the region, so a very mild forecast, and 67 there towards Greenwood, Cleveland, and 68 around Greenville. So this is going to be a mild forecast, but that's a result of just that warming trend that we've been in over the past few days. Futurecast into our Thursday morning showcases those dry conditions continuing to try to stick around. I'm hopeful this wind really kicks in, because that will really be a determining factor on whether or not we see that fog once again, but fingers crossed on that, because it can be some hazardous commute conditions. But by the time we get towards that 7:30 hour, that sun is shining, a lot of that fog does burn up, and a lot of that moisture that we have in the atmosphere not posing any concern for our Thursday morning commute. But there you see that front inching closer and closer to North Mississippi. That's what's bringing us at least some chances of isolated development come Thursday afternoon. You'll see that right here along that frontal boundary, but a drastic difference from what we saw this time yesterday. Whenever we were tracking that Thursday afternoon forecast, heavier activity along that northeast corner, and it did have a level 1 risk for severe weather. All of that has been pushed back there towards the north and east. We'll track that in more detail coming up tonight at 6, but you can see that there is still some development along that frontal boundary as it moves there towards through the northeast side of the state and there into northern Alabama. So that's the best chances of rainfall. And if you're not in either of those locations, unfortunately, the forecast looks very dry, so that drought monitor not going to be doing any favors for that. High temperatures. This is where we talk about the warming trend. It's that summer surge in full effect. Low 90s across the region with 94 Greenwood, Belzona, and Greenville. So it is going to be a toasty forecast, and those feels like values, slightly muggier forecast than what we have been experiencing. You can see a 2 to 3 degree temperature difference in regards to those feels like values compared to what those actual temperatures are. Overnight into our Thursday, that frontal boundary, you might notice, kind of recedes and goes away. That's the bad part about this forecast, but don't be alarmed. There's another front that we are watching on the back end of that's going to be pushing in towards our Friday night and Saturday morning. So don't be alarmed. That cold front was just basically a pump fake if you play basketball, and the real shot is coming as we head into our Friday night. There you can see it right there in the distance, or at least the shadow of it there towards Arkansas. That's 3 p.m. on your Friday. That inching closer and closer and going to be bringing us some isolated to scattered chances of rainfall. And we're praying on this forecast that at least it waits till after the football forecast, because you might notice 10 p.m. the entire area is staying dry. But as we push overnight, those chances really increase for some scattered coverage, and we're watching those chances, best chances for rainfall, going to be Friday night into Saturday morning, hopefully when a lot of us are asleep, so not putting a damper on any of those plans for your weekend or for your Friday night football. High temperatures, mid to upper 90s, that summer surge really trying to make an impact. We are talking about 98 Clarksdale, 97 Tunica, 95 Union County in New Albany, and even 95 right here in Lee County there in Tupelo. Feels like values, we are talking triple digits back in the forecast. The mugginess factor adding a few degrees to that forecast, so it is not going to be our past few days where it's been a very comfortable forecast. Summer trying to make its last mark on our forecast, and so we're hopeful that this will be the last days of those hot temperatures. High school football, 90 degrees by pregame, so it is going to be a hot forecast, but 83 by halftime, 78 by that final snap. We are hopeful, or at least grateful, that we can cool off as the night goes on, but this will be one of those hot football forecasts that we talked about last week that we were grateful we didn't have. Well, we couldn't evade it forever. And into that evening forecast, you see that 10%. And we are hopeful that at least those games will wrap up before those showers start to move in. If you're over there towards Senatobia or anywhere around the Memphis area, chances are very low. So we need those games to go by quickly. Hey, run the ball every single time, right? And that'll really let the game go by. But your football forecast, your SEC football forecast, we're going to start with Ole Miss versus Kentucky. Our first game of the Saturday slate going to be around 2:30 against Kentucky, as I mentioned, but it's at Kentucky. And look at those temperatures. What a time to schedule an away game. 57 first play, 57 by halftime, and 54 towards the final snap. Staying dry through the entirety of the game, so that should be a great game over there at Kroger Field. Mississippi State versus Arizona State. That kickoff happening around 6:30. So luckily, at least on the latter part of the day where it's much cooler temperatures, and the chances of rainfall very limited in coverage for our Saturday evening. So hopefully that doesn't go right over Davis Wade and we stay on the drier side of that forecast. And of course, Alabama looking for some redemption, and I think Louisiana Monroe is the perfect redemption team. That's going to be at Bryant Denny, 6:45. 10% chance of rainfall, so not going to be nearly those conditions they had down in Tallahassee. A much drier forecast comparatively speaking, so at least maybe that'll be some good luck for the Tide. But let's track that 7-day forecast, and of course we're going to be dealing with some of those scattered showers for your Thursday afternoon along the northeast side of our area. Friday, those chances try to kick in overnight, so this is basically 30% for this half of your Friday, and then 20% is for this half of your Saturday. So this area right here going to be the best chances of rainfall in the extended forecast. So hopefully we all get some along with that frontal boundary. But the real effect will be in the temperatures, 95 falling to 86, and then 69 for the start of our Saturday, dropping back to 63, maybe even upper 50s back in the forecast as we head towards the early parts of next week. So we are definitely excited about that forecast and excited about some cool down taking place. It's the unfortunate part that we're dealing with some rain showers as we wrap up our football games and some heat as we get those football games started. Now, I am hopeful that we can get Matt back up. Is everything working now?
Yeah, we're here from the remote weather center here for a little bit. Again, as you mentioned, I think one of the big highlights here is that naturally, of course, we would have football at 95 degrees at that temperature. So it's definitely going to be hotter. There are some showers there, and I will say that we will be tracking those in a lot more detail coming up during our 6 o'clock broadcast on Mississippi Live Weather. Gabe, if you want to track a few of those back there from the Weather Center, I think I'll probably join you in Weather Center at that time. But I think the big headline is that heavy rainfall, while it remains a factor out of these storms, thankfully most of these remain well below severe limits, and hopefully that remains the case into the overnight hours. But certainly, again, Gabe, more than anything else, just some rainfall that we need that's still very spotty.
Exactly, Matt. And so that's the thing about it is we're not seeing heightened rain chances to where everyone will be affected, but we are hopeful that the areas that need it get at least a few drops in that extended forecast. I'll have to move this over to the to the radar here in one moment. I did want to show this off to you guys. This was a picture submitted there in Prentiss County this evening, and this was actually a shot of a disorganized shelf cloud along that leading edge of the storm. So while it may not have been severe, it definitely was an intense, or at least trying to be organized storm. This was in Prentiss County, right through the Boonville area. So that was a result, producing that heavy rainfall and that aerial flood advisory. As a result, a big thank you to our weather watcher, Leslie, for submitting that and for staying weather aware. It looks like that she was away from the storm just a bit and hopefully didn't get too much of a downpour. But I'm going to send this back to our system and go over here to track a few of these storms. And I will have to bear with me behind the scenes. I'm going to get this pulled up right here, make sure I have everything set up, and that looks good right there. So let's track a few of these. So what we're seeing as we loop a couple of these storms, let's go over the last hour or so, and we're going to focus on the top because that's where we've seen the most significant activity. This one over here towards Tishomingo County, right around the Midway area and Paden community. As we move over the last hour, I'm trying to get a good tell on the speed of this, and we're going to have to do some old-fashioned. Let me do this real quick. We're talking Biggersville was, so I would say 20 miles an hour, not out of the question. And we're going to go at the heart of this storm as it moves south and east there through Paden, through Tishomingo. And we're going to extend it about 20 miles an hour or so. So there you get a good look at those times. Carter Branch by 5:46, Petertown 5:51, Mingo 5:52, Burnstown 5:55, and on there towards Pleasant Site by about 6:17. That's going to be one of the heavier downpours on the most electric part of the system. Still, and I'm going to zoom in right here on just this storm right here and go to the latest scan. And we can see that we have 31 strikes in this system right along Highway 36 and County Road 967. That's going to be east of the Holcutt community. Let's zoom back out and we're going to assess what we got right here at the studio because that's what took us out, or at least took us off air for just a moment because of that electric system. I'm going to go back over the last, let's see, what time is it? 5:30. So that would have been right. Let me go back a couple scans. You're looking right there. So the strike, was that a strike that was close by? Hang on, I'm sorry. Yeah, it looks like it was right there. So there's your strike. So we are right here in the downtown area, and so whenever you look at that one strike, it'll pop up here in a second. Or at least maybe I need to go back a couple. Okay, let it do it real quick. I thought I saw a strike here earlier. I will assess that behind the scenes. I'm sorry, that is my tangent aside. But the reason why we're paying attention to these storms is because we have this boundary that if we go to the latest scan, and I'm going to make sure that's on the latest scan, draw this for you guys to kind of walk you through this with that yellow line. So we're paying attention to this boundary right here that extends all the way down there towards Eupora, even there on the southern end of Itawamba County, closer to Fulton. Whenever this interacts with a few of the storms that we already have, that'll intensify those storms, but also result in a few more developing along that outflow boundary there towards Calhoun County, Chickasaw County, and even up there towards Pontotoc County. So more development expected as that boundary pushes more towards the north, with more activity over there just south of there as well. So as of right now, that's the only storm we're watching, with a few of those isolated sections back there towards northwest Pontotoc and northern Lafayette. But we're going to jump down here to Winston County that is experiencing some of those heftier thunderstorms. Pushing this back over the last hour, you can kind of see the movement on these, and a lot of these at least trying to extend north. It looks like there's another boundary that's trying to extend right there, and so that's going to be moving through. I'm going to actually do this behind the scenes because we're going to need a longer track on this one. So bear with me one moment while I pull this up and go to the latest scan. And this does not look like a fast mover at all. You can kind of see that boundary right there. So I'm going to go right along here and make sure I get all of this right here. As it moves there towards Scuba, and I'm only going about 10 miles an hour. That might be even too fast. So we're talking Linville 538, closer to the Nanawai community 550, Louisville 604, Scuba 609, Vernon 614, and closer to the Mill Creek area by about 620. So that's on the extended look with a few of these showers and storms. And some of these show you how little movement there's been. We have a flash flood warning that's in place for Kemper County until 7:15 as a result of some of those heavier downpours. So this is a system that we're watching, as several of these are just outflow boundaries that are kind of colliding in the right ways. So we're going to keep eyes on this behind the scenes. As of right now, no severe weather is expected, and we're going to get everything back up and running for a 6 o'clock broadcast. So we thank you for joining us. We hope that you stay dry for your church evening plans. And of course, you can always stay up to date with the Mississippi Live Weather app, with really what to expect. We'll have that live radar for you and our forecast that we update morning and evening that you kind of help you visualize what's happening on that forecast. Or, I mean, you can do it yourself with some of our forecasted radar that we have. Goes through the next 24 hours and kind of helps you with those plans. So you can download that, iOS and Android, right here in the bottom left and right of your screen. Make sure to scan that, or if you know someone that needs a weather app, or at least needs to stay informed when it comes to Mississippi's weather, make sure to screenshot this and send it to them. And we appreciate so much just all the support you guys are doing. We'll be back here tonight at 6 for the next broadcast here for Mississippi Live Weather. And of course, our next broadcast beyond that will be tonight at 10. We thank you guys for joining us. We'll keep you updated on these storms and of course keep eyes behind the scenes, but we'll be back here in the next half hour.
March 24th, 2023 was a normal Friday. You know, we knew the weather was not good, but we needed to take shelter, and we didn't have shelter. My husband and almost 2-year-old daughter, Ethan and Riley, they did lose their lives in the storm. We're still recovering from it. We'll always be recovering from it. Matt Laupon cares about the community. He's not just there to collect a paycheck. I feel like Matt Laupon has proven himself trustworthy.
Today, I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Laupon here from Mississippi Live Weather. Temperatures working their way through the 70s.